It is January 3rd at 7 PM. I'd like to call the January meeting of the Sutton Police Department Building Committee to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our last meeting held on December 6th. Done wonderfully by Jerry, as always. If we could just take a moment to review those, please.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from December 6th meeting as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And abstention is 1. Thank you very much. Very excited to have an update on our construction schedule. First, I'd like to turn the floor over to Neil for a project manager update.
We're going to sort of do things a little out of order. We have our general contractor with us tonight. Joe Braitz is with us, as well as the rest of the Nelco team. So we were going to let them step up and do a brief introduction.
That would be great. The committee's
Also,
anxious.
Sort of confirm the next couple of weeks' schedule as it plays out with the weather involved and whatnot. So
Excellent. Please, if you gentlemen want to take a seat up here so the camera can catch you.
Sure.
That would be great.
I don't know if there are any other chairs. Are there any chairs in the other room that we could bring in?
If you don't mind being a little shorter, I'm used to it, so it works.
Slide over.
Musical chair.
All right, cool.
We need a bigger room.
Just
I don't
keeps
want
up.
to wear a tie, I feel overdressed.
smaller team, one or the other.
Yeah, come on.
I didn't
So
get the
if you-
memo.
You got 3.
If
I'll
you
be
gentlemen
here
would like to
periodically.
introduce yourselves, that
Sure.
would be fantastic.
Sure. Joe Prates, Vice President Design and Construction for Nelco.
Bruce Bourgeois, Site Superintendent for Nelco.
Brian Bechet, Project Manager for Nelco.
Dave Balfour, Project Manager for Nelco.
Thank you. So if you could just sort of bring us up to date on where we are as of today and what we're looking at for our short-term project going forward in the next couple of weeks?
Sure. Well, I can confirm a couple of things. We just received notification that the filing for the NOI was reviewed, approved. We got notification back, so that's the first hurdle. I think that's been dealt with. Excuse me. Obviously, pending the weather that we're going to be dealing with over the next couple of days, we'll be dealing with that on site just to make sure things are clear. And I think we have a couple of minor items to clear up in terms of some engineering questions that we have, and I think we're planning on doing that over the next couple of days with the design team, and Neil and I have been in discussions about just getting a couple things sorted out. And what we'd like to do, obviously, is target remobilizing the site contractor back to the site. Hope for some good weather so we can make some progress, get back going on site as early as, early next week. That's the intention anyway. And continue forward from there. We are in the process of updating the master schedule, so we can hopefully share that in the next week to week and a half, just to make sure everybody's comfortable with what we have and what the challenges have been and where the project is going overall. The project team will be Dave Balfour, obviously, project manager, working with Brian, our senior project manager, and Bruce Bourgeois is relatively new because he's returning from some hip surgery, but doing well. And the goal is to have both Brian and David work on, continuing the buyout, be on site until Bruce is in shape to be there permanently on a day-to-day schedule. And, we've used the last week and a half with the holidays, to pretty good use in defining scope and additional purchases of subcontractors. So we've made some progress with those items, and we look forward to hopefully the weather cooperating with us over the next 8 weeks or so we can continue on the path to get the job completed in time.
So I know it's hard to forecast a project when you can't forecast the weather. But based on where we had anticipated being in January, February, March with the project, all things being equal, and again, they may be incredibly unequal, do you see us being able to continue being in the ground and, getting the footings done and steel laid? And
I can tell you, if we experience normal type weather for this area, it's not unreasonable to continue on that path. Given the unseasonably cold weather, and particularly this cold snap, quite frankly, the last week and a half, I'm not sure how productive it would have been, but we are where we are, and we're going to hope for the best in typical weather conditions. So if that's the case, then we'll have to deal with your typical items, a little bit of frost in the ground, but if we stay on the path of, this cold snap breaking for us, It's not atypical to be doing some of that work in New England at this time of year. So foundations can continue, the pad can continue. When we're keeping our fingers crossed that the weather's going to cooperate after looks like the next 4 days. Next week actually looks back on track to maybe be in the 20s and maybe even low 30s. We can deal with those temps. When it gets to negative, 0, single digit, that proves to be the challenge in terms of productivity. So we'll evaluate that on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis, but it's the intent to keep the project moving along in the winter climate that we typically run into it if you've worked in this area. So
Excellent. Anyone on the committee have any specific or general questions? So, great opportunity to have so many representatives from our GC here, so if you have a question, now would be the time.
I haven't been by the site since we had the groundbreaking, so I don't even know what has progressed from December 15th to this point here, what has been done actually.
sure. Well, I'm the wrong guy to answer that question because I'm not here on a day-to-day basis, but certainly.
I guess I'll have to.
So Brian can certainly give you an update.
I've been there full-time, other than last week. So we have about 40% of the building pad, if you will, which is what the building foundation sits on, up to about subgrade. And we removed the unsuitables. And then in front of that, we have another 20%. We had the unsuitables removed. Unfortunately, then the weather hit and we had the permitting issue, we had to stop. So a couple weeks, if the weather cooperates, we can get the rest of the pad prepared. And then we're ready to make a determination where we move forward with the foundation, depending on the weather. So, and the rebar drawings are in. There's other shop drawings that have come in. So we're just,
They're submitted in.
yeah, so the rebars are in for the foundation. The elevator shaft will follow, but that's not critical at this point. Concrete's all bought out. They're ready to go. So just hoping for some good weather and we get moving forward.
So Wayne, I think relative to your question,
Yeah.
work progressed from the point that we were at the groundbreaking, but then with the cold weather, it didn't progress to the point that
So
we
we
had
have
hoped.
footings and all that are all in?
No.
Not all,
footings
no.
are not in.
No footings.
No footings in.
Nope,
The,
not yet.
the
I was
groundwork
thinking
is being
pad,
done.
I'm saying-
Yeah.
Thinking.
That is the dirt. if you
That
will.
part
It
of the
holds up the
subgrade
footprint.
pad, okay, which they were
Yeah.
doing the day we were groundbreaking.
Yes.
Yeah, we had to remove some
Yeah.
unsuitable material and then we had to spread it out. So we had to kind of take out the bad and put in the good. We just ran out of good weather.
Welcome to New England.
Yeah. Well, I've done projects in Florida and
Yeah, this
you
is
fight
true.
the heat down there, so.
We don't have any alligators here. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Where are we with the temporary, the power and things like that? Is that all
It's,
progressed? Or?
we're just waiting for our window. We got, we contacted them and he's contacted them daily, a couple times a week, and everything was all set. We're just waiting for our window of opportunity.
For them to come out. It's on them. I mean,
On who, National Grid?
Yeah.
yes, National Grid, correct.
All right.
We're at their whim right now with, power outages or anything like that. That comes well before us or install or anything like that. So being the end of the year also, they had vacations and stuff that superseded us completely. So it's just, we're waiting for them. We're all set, ready to go. It's just waiting for them to
So
come out.
who's your contact at National Grid?
That was Heather.
Okay.
Yep.
Kevin Shaughnessy is our representative for the town.
Okay.
And he is willing and able to help out,
Okay.
maybe help speed things along.
If you could forward me his contact
Yeah, how do we get in touch with Kevin?
Can you have his contact? Can you send that?
this morning.
Thank you.
So, to elaborate, the panel board's up. It's been inspected by the town. We're just waiting for them to bring the electricity over. And telecom, same thing. We had Sterling?
No, it's, Spectrum.
Spectrum. They're a little bit trickier because they have to bring it from one pole to another, and then it's a separate installation from the pole to the trailer, so.
All right.
So we're
Neil
working
has
on
the
that, too.
contact information. He'll forward it over to you. He might be able to help out a
Anybody
little
that
bit.
can push it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Help.
that'd help.
Have we made any progress with Mass Highway as far as the crossing?
Well, no. And the reason I say that is according to National Grid, who came to the job site, he said, we're not going under the road, we're going over. So they're gonna put a post somewhere. And that was 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard back from him. He was supposed to get, and the same thing, the holidays came. It's, for lack of a better term, in the next year's budget, if you wanna look at it that way. So I haven't heard back from him yet. I'll follow up with him again. But he wanted to put a post somewhere into the,
That was their design, is to put a
Yeah.
post in and bring it over to the transformer.
and then he
As a
had,
temporary
No,
measure?
permanent.
And you're talking about a utility pole.
Yes,
Not-
yeah, utility
Yeah.
pole.
Yep. And then they had reservations on where the transformer is. Now, being a utility company, they're gonna want it closer to the street. But they haven't finalized their design yet, so I don't know anything further. But we'll follow up with them.
And just keep in mind, you know, with that pole, we may need to run fiber or some other,
Well, the fiber's on the other side.
yeah,
That's fine.
okay.
Well, from what I
Yeah,
understand from
power
Spectrum.
coming from over top of Central Turnpike, and you've got fiber and everything coming over top of Putnam.
Okay.
Or vice versa, whichever switch. So we'll follow up with him again and find out where their final design is. So they'll come back with their preliminary design, they go to the town pays the back charge, and then they finalize it. So that's where we stand with that.
So for the cosmetic value of it, we're gonna have poles in there now in front of the station, correct?
Yeah, do we have as the project owner, have any input
No.
into that?
No, I don't think so.
I'm surprised it isn't run
I
underground.
don't necessarily disagree with that.
Keep it
I think
clean.
if we sat down with Ingrid and expressed concerns one way or the other, for whatever reason, I think we could, you know, maybe pull the power from a different pole or something like that and look at other options that may be available to us.
I'm not thinking aesthetically, I'm just thinking practically, if that pole is damaged in some way impacting, you know, power to the site,
Exactly.
more so than the look of wires above ground. I mean, the trend is to go underground, and I think there's a good reason why. But I'm not a builder, so I'd
We'll
like
find
some
out from
input into
them.
that.
So the power's coming down from Central Pike then, I take it? Must be.
No, it was Putnam Hill Road, they were gonna
Putnam.
come over the street, which is on the south side of the property, by the south entrance, southwest entrance. Come over the street, put a post, and then go down underground to the transformer. That's what he told me they would do. I asked him, you sure you're not going underground? He said, no. That's what he told me.
Okay.
So it might be, you know, we have to get Kevin involved with
We can
something
do that.
along that lines then too.
We can have a sit-down with him and Neil and the project manager and whoever from Nelco and just,
I mean,
talk
Either
about our
way, you'd have a
concerns.
pole here and a pole here. If they could hit this
Oh, yeah.
pole, you could hit that pole.
And if your representative can help out in any way,
he may.
that may be,
We'll see if we can get
Viable.
them, we'll see if we can get them lined up for
That'd be
a
great.
job meeting, or
Sounds good.
we'll get everybody in the same room together and try to
Yeah.
hash it out.
Sounds good.
do you know who you dealt with? Because it
Yeah,
may
he
be
gave me a
helpful.
card. I
All
think
right.
his name is Garrett something.
It'd be helpful to just know who we spoke with,
I have his card in the job
just to
drill.
put everybody in perspective
Yeah, I'll double
with
check.
who the parties are.
I'm looking to see my photos if I took a picture of his business card.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? We're glad that you were all able to join us tonight. It's nice to be able to put a face with the project.
Well, we're happy to be here and answer any questions, and not just today, but anytime you have one.
We'll hold you to that, don't worry.
We've answered those.
You can ask Neil, I answer my phone.
First Wednesday of every month, write it down.
Do you have any questions for us?
Nothing that comes to mind at the moment, but any information like that, if you do have somebody at the utilities, I can only
Sure.
tell you that sometimes that is a hang-up with new projects or any type of projects, new services.
Yep.
When you become a PO number at any utility, it's tough, so any help in that regard is appreciated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very mutually beneficial to do so.
Yeah.
All
Great.
right.
Dave, you're back here full-time as far as?
I'm back here, yes.
Yeah, Dave's back. The intent is to Dave was gonna bring the project out of the ground. Bruce is recovering from a hip replacement, so he's back to work now, but the intent is to have, obviously, Dave bring the project out of the ground. Brian's the senior project manager. He'll be running the project management activities. Bruce is gonna be very shortly, day-to-day activities on site for everybody.
And I'll be in the background still doing
Yeah,
stuff
but
like that.
Again, the buyout's critical, the submittals and all that, so from a paperwork standpoint, Dave's gonna be on site, Bruce will transition to site, and Brian's obviously gonna be involved as well on a day-to-day basis.
In all, you have 3 of us, as you mentioned.
And there'll be, obviously, we have, ATM behind the scenes as well, on some of this stuff, but this is the principal team right here in front of you, these 3 individuals.
He's the eye that you'll see.
And Tim, just a question for you. Have things been working smoothly with regard to the financial aspect of
So far,
transitioning through? Great.
No problem.
Excellent, well, that's great to hear. All right.
Questions for you?
Great.
You're the new guy.
Yeah.
No?
I just dumped the drawings on him the other day. So.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's getting right up to speed.
Oh, he is.
I had to flip them around the right way though.
Bruce has
Great.
got a lot of experience in this too, so.
All right, well, we're looking forward to seeing that.
Okey-doke.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
Nice meeting you all.
Nice meeting you, Bruce.
And then Neil Cybercom?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
John, we didn't want you getting bored back there, so.
The colorful handouts again.
All right, so we're looking forward to getting an update on our radio progress.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to share, I'm sorry.
No worries. We're all about conservation here.
How you said to let me know how it's going, and she did email me.
I remember the last time. Yeah, I'll talk to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one. And make sure you keep these in order. It'll be a test later. Okay, keep that. Yeah, you gotta keep these in order.
All right, I'm not gonna touch them because I'll mess them up.
Give you your own one, Paul.
Thank you.
Keep in order.
Keep them in order, Paul.
That's one, that's two.
Oh, boy.
Seriously?
Yeah, exactly.
This is
Are
because
these
of
ones
the
that Neil just
Pigeon
sent?
Hill request.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the ones. I tried to figure them out online and
And I'm saving this one, this is the good news for last.
sometimes it's helpful to the news.
You're in the know already.
All right, John,
This is
please
our
enlighten us.
Coverage in the red.
Again, the first map I want to go over, coverage map, is basically the similar one to our last meeting, except I removed the station 4 or 3. What fire station was that?
Willis.
Willis.
Station 3.
3, I'm sorry. So I moved that, and the other issue we had was we had the wrong coordinates for the police department. So I'd relocate that. So the first coverage map, it basically is what they call the talk out coverage map. So if you read down the bottom left-hand corner, it says talk outs to mobile. So this is, again, the police system. The fire system is going to be very similar. Same frequency range and everything else. So what that means is that's from the 4 transmit sites
No, right here.
to the mobiles, that's the coverage you're going to get, which is very good. The next page is the same scenario, but transmitting to portables, handheld portables in the town of Sutton. So that's very solid coverage, again, from the transmit sites going out to the portables. So the next page is actually where the more important pages. So these are basically the transmit from the mobile unit. So if a police car is around Sutton or whatever, this is the transmit coming back from a mobile vehicle radio or cruiser radio coming back through the radio system. Again, very solid coverage there. And what happens is, if you look at the difference between the two maps, is you'll see receiver site that we have at the PD headquarters. It's the only addition to that map. Okay, so before, for some reason, I had it more towards the east of that location on the original maps. So the last coverage map on that, on this is, again, option 3 is to the portables talking back to the system. So it's very solid, except probably the southeast corner of the town. It's basically on the fringe. And that's, again, the portables talking back, using a remote mic and a radio on the hip. If you have the radio up here, it differs, but I try to do the worst case scenario. So again, the only gap coverage area right now is that southeast corner. And you know, one of the things that, the reason why we went to the other map, I'll show you that, is we thought Pigeon Hill might have helped that area which, again, we'll go over that next. Okay, so, next map, what I did do is I did a map that just shows Pigeon Hill itself. Okay, so this would be having Pigeon Hill as a transmit location only and receiver only. So it's basically a single site Pigeon Hill, meaning just using Pigeon Hill only. And just to kind of, and then when you add all these other ones, it kind of gives you the overlap. So again, same scenario. The first coverage map is talk out to mobiles from Pigeon Hill. Next one is talk out to the portables.
One question, John,
Sure.
just to interrupt you. At what color do we actually?
It's green. So if once it goes to green, darker green to blue, it's basically neg 95 is the cutoff. If you look at that color chart up the top left. So neg 95 is really like getting scratchy.
So the lime green, like the 83, neg 83?
Yeah. So that's probably like in neg 93, neg 98 is the green areas.
How do you feel about that, Chief?
So again, this is a single site.
Right.
This is not doing the whole simulcast, because again, I was requested to do a coverage map with just Pigeon Hill.
You know, the first map, the first set we went, there's just very little. And that's an area probably at the bottom of Lackey Road, would you think? Paul?
Manchog Pond.
Yeah. So that color green would be operational, but it might just be a little bit of static. or-
Static, again, and this is usually conservative, so what I'd probably do is, let's get the system in place or whatever, and at that point, if there's a gap area, all you do have to have is what they call a receiver. Another receiver for both police and fire in that general area, and find a site. So unless there's another site that you wanna add to the mix right now, that you're aware of, if there's any towers or water tanks or anything else in that southeast corner. So the last set of coverage maps I had, and basically what I did is the two coverage maps off the first page is what the difference is. You really want to just go to the second page. And again, this is adding Pigeon Hill into the mix, and this is for portable coverage. And if you basically take the first set of maps and this map, adding Pigeon Hill, and that's the only difference is, we're adding Pigeon Hill as a receive site, you won't see much difference.
No.
So you basically take the portable coverage from, it will say option 3, and then option 4 at the bottom. Okay, so if you look at that, adding Pigeon Hill really does not help out much in the coverage. Because you're gonna basically make Pigeon Hill just a receive site at that point. So again, if we were to do a site, I'd probably stay away from Pigeon Hill and find another location in that southeast corner.
Police station.
That would be a good receive site location. So that's, the gist of it right now. Again, these maps are conservative. That southeast corner is a fringe type area. And again, they usually do it on more of a conservative basis.
There's a potential tower coming to the Blackstone National. Is that gonna be of any help?
We looked into that, and it's really, where it's located is probably not gonna help too much.
Okay.
Because that's very close to Pigeon Hill, I believe, and the headquarters, the station itself. So I think that one is probably not gonna be too helpful.
Okay.
At this point.
Is there any site near the border in one of our neighboring towns that maybe we could tie on to? Something in Whitensville, something in Uxbridge?
Yeah, something in Douglas, that area is closer to Douglas than I think, or Oxford, yeah. I don't know. I mean, we could look into that and contact those communities and have a discussion.
We do have a question from our large audience.
What about at the sewer plant? Is there a tower down there now?
There is no tower down there now, no.
Is the elevation there high enough? possibly put a tower in?
Yeah, you know, the tower height, right, in that particular neighborhood, it's pretty flat. Once you get over the hills, down either Barnett or wherever to Huff Road, all of that area is essentially level, with Manchog. So, it's a possibility. It's 5 Huff Road, the sewer treatment facility, and there's no tower down there, but, you know, we could potentially look at one down there in that location.
Thank you, great question.
That is.
Is that in Sutton?
Yes.
Off-road?
It is, yeah.
Hough.
Yeah, thank you. You saw my spelling.
Chief, any other input from you? And I've had a little bit of a chance to take a look at them.
No, you know, it just, again, you're looking at maps, but
Yeah.
what other option do we have? I just,
Yeah, and again, again, this is, you know, again, a good scenario, but I really do feel it's very conservative. What I may, if it's possible, to keep maybe a contingency fund for that other site as part of the project, and then put the system as we originally discussed in place, and then do what they call grid testing, or you know, going out and testing out the mobile portables, that type of thing, and then see if there's any gaps. There may or may not be.
Could we, instead of a contingency, have that be part of it?
Future capital plan.
Yeah, the capital plan?
Yeah, I mean, the goal right now is to fund the, you know, the fiber and simulcast antennas at Maytown meeting. And then, once it's up and operational, then we can test it out, and then in a future capital plan, if there's still an issue that needs to be addressed, then we can fund a future capital item for that need, essentially.
you know, John, if we were to put a number on this, we're probably what,
Well-
90%, or,
Yeah, you're at definitely 90%.
and where are we today based on those old maps that you created a while ago?
I have to go back and look at them, but I would say 40, 40 to 50.
Yeah, so we're really getting,
Because again, you gotta remember, the only site you have is this one here,
Right.
and some receiver sites.
Good value for those dollars.
so the original quote you gave us is somewhere around the $360,000-$70,000 area.
Yeah, I mean, again, for the equipment that would be there, basically my equipment is only about 20,000.
Okay.
It's, again, the site and getting the connectivity to that site. So if it's microwave, fiber, whatever, that would be the other cost.
Well, our plan is fiber at this point. Do we have a fiber guy that's,
Yeah, we actually have a quote for two sites,
Contract?
contract,
now, are they on the state
Yes,
bid list?
yes.
so.
Okay, well,
Alright.
that simplifies things.
Okay, I got one more item. This is the good news.
Hey,
Is that an asterisk?
I know,
or-
seriously.
So, this is just, I know it's just an email, but it's basically saying that the police application and license is at the FCC and is pending approval.
Imagine that.
The fire license is in what they call a 5-day, they call it coordination review. And what that means, it basically goes out to any other agency that may have a conflict or whatever. Usually, there's nothing, and then at that point, it'll go to the FCC and be pending. So,
Excellent, well, that is good news.
that's the good news. So
That's very
again,
good news.
so I would say the license itself, probably by the end of the month, would be issued.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
And
Well,
that's
luckily there's
for
no weather impact on
Four
that.
sites, yeah. So that's, again, that's the way the FCC works. I do have maps in here for the fire department, they're pretty much the same as these, so whoever interested, I have those as well.
Can you get a copy of those to give to Chief Belcedo?
I already forwarded
Oh,
them to
okay,
him.
great.
Yeah.
Sure, he'd be interested to see those.
So again, the mirroring everything with the police and fire is, again, the coverage is gonna be very similar.
It's amazing, it's going from 40% to 90%.
Again, I can go back and double check out the
Yeah.
numbers, but I can go back and look at the original plan. but
Tremendous.
It was very,
That's good
not
news,
good.
very good news.
Just looking at, the Pigeon Hill, to me, looks like it's something that's really not needed to do it there. I mean, the coverage, so are we not gonna pursue that, hopefully? We're not
Yeah.
gonna go that route then?
We
are
want,
we?
we purchased the land,
Right.
for $20,000. It wasn't a major purchase, and obviously there'll be a need for expanding the cemetery.
Yeah.
Which is, the purpose of purchasing that land. If we needed a tower, there's enough land up there to do that, but it doesn't look like we need that right now, so that's good.
There's really not much difference in coverage in that. This is actually hypothetical in a way, you really don't know what it's actually gonna prove out to be.
Right, and again, it's usually on the conservative side of things.
Anything to add to that, Neil?
The only thing I wanted to confirm was that, with the current pricing information that we've already provided, I just wanna make sure that we have everything that we need, or if we need anything else, that it's identified so that the warrants can be prepared and whatnot, and just to offer to John what that date would be, for the need date for any new or revised proposals.
Well, we're gonna budget conservatively as well. We're probably gonna budget somewhere in the order of 400,000 for this system, which should be enough to do the whole fiber as well as the work that John needs to do, so, let me know.
Not sure what the fiber quotes were, that's all.
What's that?
Would you send me that?
124 or one.
Yeah, so.
I just wanna make sure if we go back with Comtract, to make sure that we've got his best number and everybody is comfortable with the scope of what we're trying to do and the budgets that we've established, so that we've got the right numbers in front of town.
Well, that's just
my
a
only
rough number
concern.
I've plugged into our capital planning process, so if it's, if that changes, if it's gonna go up, we probably need to know by March,
Okay,
when we go to the finance committee for public hearings and everything else.
excellent, okay.
The only question I have is, what sites are going to go fiber?
Manchog
Right,
and the new station.
new station, okay. And the other ones are gonna still be microwave connectivity, which was part of the original
Right.
building.
Excellent. Well, great news about the licensing.
Stop nagging me, Neil.
Neil, don't stop nagging him.
Mission accomplished.
Any other questions, anything from the audience?
We're
No?
still tying this in with the school, correct? This is getting tied in the fiber with the school?
Yeah, we're gonna go right by the school, and Paul Maiden and I had a discussion about, where we have potential future locations, putting drops in of fiber. Shaw Farm for one, for potential use at that location. The school department as another drop, but we can probably directly connect the school department. And any other, facility that we might feel could use a drop for future reasons.
So that's still on board.
Paul, did you recall any other locations that we talked about?
We took the whole map. Chief Toll's got it on his desk. He's been looking at it. We talked about it this afternoon. It's all budget. I went full bore, laid out, maybe 14 locations to the whole town that would bring everything together.
Okay.
And it depends on price of moving fiber.
I would imagine that the time to put a drop in is when we're laying the fiber down. Is that
Right.
the ideal time?
And what is the reason we're not putting the other fire stations on?
The other what?
Are all of the facilities?
At some point, Paul and I talked, the current site we have in Wilkes to our station here is the copper telephone lines that Verizon will no longer maintain. So, that's probably a priority with regard to addressing that with fiber as well.
And that's for all your alarm systems, anything that we use, if you have a business alarm, after X date, you're gonna have to go a different route other than copper wire. I was talking with Milby Fire Chief today, and he's looking at it, he said, what are you doing? So we talked to him just about that same map that I put together for you. He's looking at fiber for some locations. It's just that the copper wire is going away. Fiber optic is 10 times faster than copper. Again, it's budget, it's funding.
Isn't everything? All right.
Just one last thing, Paul,
Yes,
will be like this, is the microwave link got relicensed as well. No, the RF link, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming out with that update. That's very enlightening.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, John. Item number 4 on the agenda is the finance update. We had a finance subcommittee meeting a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, Tim, if you want to speak to where we're at financially and, you know, maybe what we can put together to provide to the committee going forward on a monthly or bi-monthly basis as far as maybe something in writing just to show where we stand financially on the project, similar to what we did with the school.
I know at the subcommittee meeting, I compared my notes with Neil so that, make sure that we're on the same page. We haven't really spent that much money yet. We've had the first requisition from Nelco.
Yep.
And that was just getting mobilized. There wasn't really a whole lot going on yet.
We do have a requisition that's pending that I would imagine within the next week or two, we'll get everything finalized and packaged up and sent over to you to be processed.
So what we'd like to say on the records for Jerry is that we're very fiscally sound.
Very much so.
Yeah, and I think they already mentioned it for their presentation, that the only hiccup so far has been
Some
some unsuitable soils.
Right.
And those will be change orders that are coming in, and, we have $90,000 in contingency at this point.
Yep.
And we're talking maybe, I don't know, worst case, $45,000, give or take, to get out of the ground. So that's not a terrible situation on a, reused site, to only spend that kind of money getting out of the ground.
Yeah, agreed. So, yes, wait.
Were we keeping that in town then? Was that how we're gonna keep the money down on that?
Thanks, John.
Were we keeping what in town?
The contaminated soil,
It's actually on the site.
and it's gonna stay there, we're gonna reuse it then.
Just
repurpose it
to
on the site.
clarify,
It's not contaminated,
It's
it's
not
unsuitable.
contaminated soil,
I'm sorry.
it's just,
Yeah, okay.
it's soil that's unsuitable for bearing foundations on.
Okay, gotcha.
So it was used to level another part of the site.
Important
Is the big
differentiation.
difference.
Yes, it is. Yes. Wrong word. Contaminated.
We did have that issue on the school site, and we had to have it shipped out, but this soil was
We
able to
talked
stay
about
on
it
site.
in the last meeting there
Yeah.
about the soil, reusing it on site there.
Yeah,
We had the existing soil tested, it's sieved and tested out, such that it can be used, under parking areas or under areas that are not load-bearing soils, landscaped areas, for example. So they'll use it for general cuts and fills, and they'll take it out of the foundation footprint and replace it in other, less critical areas, we'll say, and reuse it for general fill material on the site.
Okay.
Overall, Neil, is there fill that's needed for the site, like
Yes.
when everything is done?
Yeah, the site was a fill, in a net fill. In other words, we were importing soil into the site to meet the final grades and conditions. So they'll just have to import less, and that's okay.
At any point, would the fill that is over on Hatchery Road, was that something that we could use, or, so we don't have to pay for it, or? You know that?
Well, we can talk about that later. I mean, right now, we don't take anything out of that
Oh.
hill anymore, in part because of, it's a pretty steep hill, and the safety of the workers and so forth, so. We do have an old gravel pit that the town owns, that we're actually in the process of trying to sell the material on that site, either at Maytown meeting or in Fall Town meeting, so. That material is there, it's a question of whether it can be extracted safely. we can follow up later on that.
Excellent. So, Tim and Neil, will you work together on going forward once we do start, really circulating some funds, having something that we can circulate to the committee that will give us a before, during, and after sort of perspective? All right, that would be great.
Sure, no problem.
All right, and so Finance Subcommittee, do we meet once a month?
Yes.
Yes. So we'll be meeting again in a couple of weeks. And then weather permitting, we'll have a construction meeting on Friday morning.
We're scheduled to have a job meeting at 9 AM on Friday morning, and I think at this point, everyone will hold their breath, and we'll wait and see what Mother Nature brings us tomorrow. And, if travel is safe and the site is open and functional, that we can get everybody into the trailers safely, we'll do that.
The worst case scenario is we could have it here at Town Hall, like we did in the
And we
past.
can also reschedule it for Monday or Tuesday of next week, if everyone's schedule permits. And I wouldn't recommend at this point that we skip the meeting. I think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's
critical to
critical at this point.
keep everybody's attention focused and.
I'm planning on walking behind my snow blower to get there. Yeah, it's not that far from me. All right, so if something changes, I'll circulate and
We'll communicate
email.
it by
Okay,
email.
fantastic.
Yep.
Any other finance questions? No? New business, old business, I'd really just like to touch on the groundbreaking ceremony. It was fantastic to see such a showing of support from the police department and from the community and members of this committee. It was cold, but it was really exciting, and I'm already looking forward to the ribbon cutting ceremony, which I hope is in warmer weather. Does anybody have their phone handy for the date for the first Wednesday of February to schedule our next meeting?
February
7th?
6th or something?
7th.
Seventh.
Okay, right. So our next regularly scheduled meeting will be February the 7th at 7 o'clock in this room. I don't anticipate any reason to have an interim meeting, but we certainly can if necessary.
I just have one item,
Yes,
Wendy.
yeah.
I just wanted to introduce Roger Hoyt. He's our site representative. He'll be on site, whenever the contractor is working and representing CMS there.
Excellent.
So he came on board with us in mid-December when work started up, and I just wanted to make sure he was introduced to the committee.
Welcome.
Roger?
It's a pleasure to meet you. Any other new or old business?
I do.
Yes, Jeff.
Happened to look at the calendar, and it's been 1 year since we've started to meet. And that we've made great progress in that 1 year.
Yeah, a lot of designs were in the ground.
It's been a year already, huh?
January,
Let's not compare this to the school building. Let's finish in 2 years, okay? Let's get done with
I've
this.
blocked that out of my mind. No, thanks for pointing that out there, Jerry, because
Yeah,
time certainly has a way of getting away from us.
and look at the progress.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm so excited. So that's me. Any other new or old business? There being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:44.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any objections? Abstentions? None? Thank you very much, gentlemen.
No, it's all yours.